Today I'm going to talk about my favorite mechanism in Custom Heroes. Custom Heroes is a card crafting game, which means that you are using a combination of clear cards and card sleeves to combine different cards to form new cards. I know that's a very effective way of saying that, but you're basically sleeving cards that are see-through so you can see different elements through those cards and they become new things. So I might have a card that has a number 9 in the upper left, and I might modify that number by putting another card in that same sleeve that says maybe -2 or +2. Or I might overlap that original 9 completely and make it a new number. The reason you want to do this in Custom Heroes is that you play a number of rounds in this game and you are trying to get rid of all of your cards first each round. If you do so, you get more points. Points move you towards ending the game. The end game trigger and the win condition are pretty close to being the same thing. And I was surprised by this game. I usually don't enjoy, this isn't quite a trick-taking game. That isn't the type of game I usually gravitate towards. It is a card game with a kind of a trick-taking element to it. I think someone called it like a ladder climbing game. Maybe that's what it's called. But it caught me off guard. I really enjoyed it, and I would definitely play this game again. And one of the reasons for this is the agency I have over my hand of cards. I've played other games like this. I know I can't remember the name of it. In my youth, I played a card game exactly like this. We were trying to get rid of all your cards. BS is kind of like this, but there's a non-BS version of this game. I think there's a drinking game version of this as well. But there's a game where you get a bunch of cards, and you're trying to get rid of those cards. And one of the ways you do this is, maybe you can skip other players. So if the previous player plays an 8, and I put down an 8 on top of it, I might skip the next player so I can get rid of my card. I'm preventing them from getting rid of a card. Another way to do this is, you can only, in Custom Heroes and in this type of game, the original cards placed on the table, say I put down two 3s, the next player has to put down that same number of cards. So I have to put down 2 cards that are equal to or higher than the value of that stack. And that continues around the table, 2 cards at a time. So it's almost just as good to have like 4 5s as it is to have 1 10, 1 high card, or 2 10s, because you can get rid of those cards all at once, particularly if you can lead off the hand and be the player who plops down 4 4s on the table, or 4 5s. So, but the problem with many of these games is that you're at the whim of the cards that you are dealt. There's some creativity involved in when you play those cards, but not really. And Custom Heroes fixes this because of the card crafting mechanism. So in an area of the game where there was no agency, during your turn, when you're playing cards, you can craft your cards at that moment based on what is happening at the table. So I might have a hand of cards. I don't really know when I'm going to play next. I have a rough idea, but the player before me plays 2 6s, and I'm able to craft one of my cards. So I have a card in sleeves, and I can put one of those plastic cards inside of it. I'm able to craft it so that I then also have 2 6s. Maybe I had an 8 and a 6, and I put a -2 in the 8 card, so that card is now a 6 as well. And so I can not only match that stack, I can play a pair of cards, I also get to skip the next player. So in that way, the negatives are just as good as the positives when I change these cards. There are a lot of other abilities too. Those are kind of the core abilities, minus or plus, or just change the number. But there are a bunch of other abilities. One of my favorites is switch the direction of the pile. So normally you're playing cards that are equal to or greater than. There's a card that goes in there that you can sleeve that makes the pile go the other way. So if you have a bunch of low cards in your hand, you might turn it down the other way, and instead of having equal to or greater than, you might be equal to or less than. But the key here is that I love that I have minute-to-minute agency over the cards in my hand. Not complete control, it's still a random draw, but that within that random draw, I have power, I have control. I can change what these numbers are and what these abilities are to improve my strategy and improve my place in the game. I really love that. It seems somewhat unique to card crafting games, but I'm sure there are other examples that we can think of how you can how you get a bunch of random stuff, but you can change how that random stuff works in the moment. If you have an example of this in another game, I'd love to hear about it. Or if you have an element of Custom Heroes that you really enjoy and want to talk about it in the comments, I'd love to hear about that as well. Thanks.